Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
How's it, punters? Welcome back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast. And we've got some bad news today. Unfortunately, there wasn't a winner in our 3,000 sub giveaway. The winning number was 4. I'm going to pop that video up now so you guys can have a look and see that the ball did in fact end on 4. It's the same spin. I'm not trying to shaft anyone, and unfortunately there was no one that had that one. There were a couple of guys who came close, a few 3s, a few 5s, but what we'll do is we'll put together a competition in the future, and we'll see if we can give that away with some other goodies as well. Maybe make it something a bit easier to win, even though I felt that one was pretty easy. I think there were about 50 comments, and you would think we'd have a winner there, but unfortunately not. And so Simon, let's have a quick look at some of the sporting results from the weekend. Let's start off with the Premier League. We only had 4 matches. I'm only really interested in 3. I'm not gonna touch on the Fulham one. I'm going to talk a bit about our bets and predictions. I had Brighton, Newcastle. I had Newcastle to get a result there. Absolutely wrong. I was way off the mark. I mean, couldn't have been more wrong if I'd tried. 3-0, absolutely smashed Newcastle. Pretty bad performance from the tune there. And the bookmakers had that line right. I thought I had them tricked there, but no, they fooled me.
Yeah, absolutely not. Newcastle couldn't deliver for us this time, but I think the highlights of the 4 fixtures was definitely West Ham Arsenal, and it did deliver. West Ham were actually 3-0 up after 32 minutes, and looked to kind of have the game wrapped up, but Arsenal came back to level the score.
I want to say that West Ham were 5-0 up after that with all the goals, because West Ham scored 5 goals in that game. Absolutely,
yeah, and then obviously the 2 own goals from West Ham is what leveled the score there, but a highly entertaining game nonetheless.
Yes, definitely. I mean, some cracking goals as well. That first one from West Ham was a crack, and I was following the game and I was thinking, okay, wow, West Ham up. Should I get a bet on Arsenal? And I was just like, no, I couldn't back them. They didn't play badly. But I really didn't expect it to end in a 3-3 draw. I think that's the right result, probably. It's not really helping either side. It's probably a good result for Arsenal, especially coming off that 1-0 loss to Olympiacos in the Champions League, which we'll be touching on a bit later. Well, the Europa League rather, not the Champions League. I don't know when last Arsenal were in the Champions League. But yeah, so that was definitely, as you said, the highlight of the weekend. Quite enjoyed that one. Great one for the neutrals. And then we had Tottenham picking up a 2-0 win away to Aston Villa, kind of bouncing back from their shocking display, or not the shocking display, from Lamella's shocking display at the Emirates the week before. So a good win for them there. And then obviously Newcastle with their shocker against Brighton. And then there was the Fulham game, which I can't quite remember the result off the top of my head. That was the first game of the week.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't, as I said, the best round of fixtures, I don't think. But we haven't got any EPL to look forward to this week, but we do have lots of other actions. So should we move on to that? Yeah.
Before we do that, let's quickly jump back to the Champions League. And you said you wanted to chat about some of those results. I mean, nothing too spectacular there. City, we had a bit of a side bet last week, and you had Mönchengladbach to I think it was lose by less than 1 goal on the plus 1.5 handicap, basically,
or lose by a goal, exactly. So we were both wrong on that one.
Yes.
But so that was, obviously it was a speculative bet, a 3-1, but the scoreline ended up 2-0. But I guess we were both kind of losers because it wasn't the thrashing that you predicted either.
Yes, I'm happy to concede there that I wasn't on the money. However, I thought it was going to be a bigger scoreline. Bit of a dull match, but one of those ones where I don't know what I would have taken on the handicap, and I don't think the 1.5 would have been big enough for any sort of bet. So I think we can call that one a draw, surprisingly. And in the other results, we had a couple of other big teams in action, but nothing too major coming out of that.
Yeah, all the home teams progressed really. So Real Madrid had a comfortable comfortable win. Bayern and Chelsea also got the job done in their respective legs, so it's kind of a day for the favourites. And the Champions League quarterfinal draw hasn't happened just yet, but there will actually be quite a long wait before those matches will take place. So that'll be on the 27th of April and the 4th of May. So a bit of a break before we go into the final 8.
Yeah, long break, and hopefully it lives up to the billing. I think it's going to be an interesting end off to the Champions League season as it usually is. But let's jump over to some rugby, and a great weekend for rugby fans. I think there was a lot of cracking rugby on. I didn't watch too much of the Super Rugby. There were some good games on, but I'm more interested in the Six Nations, where some very interesting results. We had Ireland, and I know you fancied Ireland to get some results, and they beat England comprehensively, 32-18. I mean, Eddie Jones seriously has to go.
Yeah, no, it was, looking at those odds, I thought, there was a very good chance there of Ireland getting the upset, but I didn't see such a convincing victory for the Irish. But after England's pretty good performance, well, actually very good performance against France last week, they didn't look great again last week. But I liked Wales to cover the handicap. France to cover the handicap against Wales, which didn't happen. They won by 2 points, 32-30, which puts us in quite an interesting position now in terms of the Six Nations trophy, because France is still in with a shot at winning. They've got a game in hand against Scotland because of the cancelled match in week 3. All the other teams have played each other and their points tally is set in stone, but France can still win. But there's some permutations to that.
They need to win by 4 a 4-try bonus point, basically. So that's the only thing that they can do. They can win. They can get ahead on other things, but then they're going to lose on points differences, as I understood the permutations.
That's right. Yeah. So they have to secure a bonus point victory, and then the title will be decided on points difference. So if Scotland win, draw, or lose, but France don't score 4 tries, then Wales are the champions. So they can, even if they win, but they don't score 4 tries, they won't go through either. So it's quite an interesting setup there.
Yes.
But, they're still certainly in with a chance. Wales are still the slight favourites, but you definitely can't write off France at this point.
No, but I mean, France playing at home, Scotland. I'm looking at the odds now, 1.08. Yep. I actually haven't checked the odds of what France over 3.5 tries. I don't think it's going to be that big, surely. The handicap's looking at about 16.5, 17 by the looks of it. Tries, I'm going to have a quick look here. I think nothing here up on Betway yet, but I think that's going to be some values, is backing France to cover the what they need to pick up the trophy there. And is that going to be backing France for over 3.5 tries? To win and score over 3.5 tries, that kind of thing. I think that's where a lot of the betting money is going to go. They're playing Scotland. Scotland picked up a massive 52-10 win over Italy. I was a bit surprised by the scoreline there, even though it is Italy. But France shouldn't have a problem scoring a 4-try bonus point win against Scotland, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's almost, I kind of feel that there's more chance of that happening than them covering that handicap. To be fair, so I would also go that route. But I think overall there's still a very good chance. And let's see if it goes down to, apparently the only other time where the Tri Nations has actually been decided on goal on points difference was in, I think it was 1988, and it was also actually Wales and France. So it would be interesting to see if that happens again.
Yeah, well, there's no other matches taking place, so that's the only one. So everyone else just has to kind of sit and watch this match, especially if you're Welsh. It's really going to suck. I mean, sitting watching this, but they threw away a big chance over the weekend in their loss to France. That really late. I think it was in the last minute or something that French try came in. So but tough on Wales. But it'd be nice to see France lift the trophy. I think they've got a very, very strong young team. They haven't been doing that well in the last couple of years, so it's good to see them on the up. But let's look ahead at some of the other sports coming up, Simon. We've got not very much in the way of soccer or football, other than league football, that is. We've got lots of World Cup qualifiers. We've got AFCON qualifiers, things that I really don't like to get involved in, because there's a lot more kind of criteria and factors that you need to take into account in international football than there is in the league. There's less form that you can look at. You haven't been watching these teams in and out. You don't really have an eye test for them to pass. So I'm probably going to be steering well away from some of these fixtures, even though there's some decent matches. I really don't want to get involved. International,
Absolutely.
it's a bit
Rob,
crazy for me. Yeah.
I think you put that very well, Rob. Looking at these kind of games are very tricky to call for that very, they don't have the form to speak of. They don't play together very often. So there's just all these variables which can make it a bit of a minefield. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it'll be hosted in Cameroon in January and February next year, with 24 teams playing in total. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens then. We'll definitely bring plenty of previews and tips in good time. So look out for those.
We've got South Africa taking on Ghana. And I'm looking at the odds right now, and I'm seeing South Africa are favourites. And I almost just want to fade South Africa, fade Bafana there. I mean, 2.32. I mean, looking at Ghana at 3.43, I think I'll just go with the Ghana double chance because Bafana has been pretty shocking recently. But once again, it is, as I said, it is international. Anything can happen. And I'm just looking at some of the odds of the big teams, and wow, it's just it's a bit of a let's set these odds on reputation rather than anything else. So I'm not going to get involved. Then, Simon, we have some cricket going on. I think the match is live at the moment, actually. England won the toss, and I think they decided to bowl first. And we've got India. Last I checked, they were like about 40 without loss. That's going on the ODI series. Have you been having a look at that? Have you had any thought or got any thoughts on that series?
Yeah, I have. I mean, nothing really from a betting perspective, but as you said, three match ODI series starting today. Has started already. I mean, India best price before the match with 13 to 20, so 1.65 to beat England in the series, which looks about right to me. I mean, I think India have to be considered fairly strong favourites, and I wouldn't want to be backing them at a price sort of less than 8 to 10, to be honest. So I think it's kind of a no bet for me. 13 to 10 on England is also not big enough for me to back them. So I would say, I mean, it's a bit late now with the match started, but I mean, I think the only way to really attack this one, if you fancy India, is to go for a sort of 3-0 match sweep, maybe, at odds of 3 to 1. But I think there's not much in these odds really, and it's kind of, the chance that the bookmakers are giving India, I think, is pretty spot on here. But should be a good series nonetheless.
Yeah, and at least it's some quality cricket sides taking each other on, which is always good. And I see that England or India are currently 75 for 1 after 18 overs, so they could be maybe not setting the biggest score, but we'll have to see what happens a bit later on in that match. And then we have some tennis that you're excited about, Simon, going on in Miami. The sunshine? What's it? Florida's the Sunshine State, or you would know this.
Well, it's part of the Sunshine Tour, right? Basically, not Sunshine Tour Golf, but there's a whole bunch of ATP 1000 matches which happen in this sort of area, and the Miami Open is one of them. So it's probably the most well attended and also most popular ATP 1000. So for those who don't know, there's underneath Grand Slams you have 1000 tournaments, and you have 500 tournaments, and you have 250 tournaments. And, they all have, starting at the top, you earn more points playing in the Grand Slam, and then less for 1,000, slightly less for 500, and so on. And this is one of the biggest non-slams, shall we say.
Yes, and sorry to jump in there. And what you often find is you won't find your bigger players playing in these smaller ATP tournaments just because it's not always worth it for them unless they really need the points. So
yeah, so you'll generally find all the big names at 1,000 tournaments for the most part. Obviously, unless there's injuries. So obviously, this week though, however, there is no Djokovic, there's no Federer, and that obviously makes a big difference in terms of the betting. There's no Nadal either. I think it also happens over 2 weeks, which makes it a lot more like a slam. Whereas these other tournaments, you basically play 4 matches to win the final. So it's there's a lot more variance, I think, in the shorter tournaments than these longer ones. Just looking at this briefly, I think the player to look at in this one is probably Stefanos Tsitsipas. He's at odds at a 15-2, which I think is a bit of value for sure. Medvedev is the tournament favorite. He's about 3.75. In the ladies, I mean, Osaka, you've got she's the favorite at odds of 7-2. I would look more towards Garbine Muguruza at 8-1, or perhaps even Jennifer Brady at odds of 14-1 there. But it should be good. I mean, this is definitely the most, as I said, the most sought after and look forward to of the 1,000 tournaments.
And they've also got a bit of a curfew going on in Miami at the moment.
Yes,
it is to believe, all the spring breakers coming down causing a ruckus, and
I
think it's
eight videos online.
Yeah, pretty crazy. But just going back to the tournament, you sent me a message over the weekend with one of your bets that you kind of a long shot bet that you took, and why don't you just tell us about that bet? Tell us the bet size, and then tell us what happened with the actual bet, because it's honestly it's nothing short of pathetic.
Yeah, so it's always, especially with outrights, because the bookmakers have huge margins on outrights generally. So if you want to try and make money betting outrights, you really have to get into the market very early, because these prices shape up, and as I said, there's a lot of built-in margin here. So Aslan Karatsev, who there's just so many good Russians at the moment, with Medvedev and a bunch of other players. But Karatsev is a new up-and-comer, and he played really well in the Australian Open, and I think he's got a lot of potential. So I looked at him to win the US Open each way, and he was at odds of 100-1. I see that in Miami he is much shorter than that. He's actually at 18-1. So yeah, it just kind of gives you an indication of how quickly these odds can move in if you. Obviously, there's going to be bigger names at the US, so he would be obviously a bigger odds. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I tried to place a bet on him at 100-1 with Sunbet, and the odds had to be accepted manually. So the bet was basically put on hold. It was only for 100 Rand each way. So not the biggest of bets, but unfortunately that bet was put on hold, but it was approved some minutes later. But I just found it quite interesting that they held the bet with such a. I mean, sure, the payout would have been about 15,000 Rand on a win, but it was a 100 Rand bet. So I just think it's a bit unnecessary to put a bet on hold of that size.
Exactly, and the odds that they were giving you was 100-1. I mean, and to manually approve 100 Rand bet is. I mean, the guys at Sun usually do a good job. I just don't know what's going on there. This sounds like something Superbets would do. Superbets would just have to manually approve anything. And I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now, but in the past I've tried to, and I'm not sure how it is now because I've stopped betting there, but I've placed bets on normal soccer matches, on rugby matches, pre-match, in play, and what happens is your bet goes into approval. So you've placed a bet on Arsenal to win the second half. It's half time. You've got 15 minutes. You're like, cool, this bet's probably going to be approved in 15 minutes, even though you shouldn't actually have to wait. I don't want to bet anywhere that makes me approve, that has to approve bets, unless these are large bets. And these bets that I'm talking about weren't large enough to be of significant amounts. It's not like hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of rands. And they would keep this bet pending, and they would literally wait like half an hour to an hour after you've placed the bet to say if they're going to accept it or not, which is, I think, completely unacceptable, because they can at that point you can tell if the bet's going to win or lose.
Well, I mean, it's a very different story also if the bet's in play. But in this instance, I'm just really glad that they accepted it fairly quickly, which is good. I would have preferred, obviously, for it to be accepted immediately, but also they didn't adjust the odds.
Yes.
So it's not like they adjusted the odds and then accepted my bet. So the fact that I still got the 100-1, I'm happy. I still think it's a bit silly that they would they would wait for approval or manually approve a bet of 100 Rand. But at least in this case, it wasn't done in play, and the odds were the same. I'm getting the same payout. So. Yeah, not ideal, but I think the situation you mentioned with super bets is a lot more unacceptable.
Yes. I mean, and these are bets on Premier League and big matches. So At least yours got approved, but I just think that Sunbet traders probably have better things to do than approve a 100 to 100 rand bet. I mean, it's sports betting. How many accumulators must they sit through every day?
Right.
That's
exactly.
A guy putting on a 1 rand for like 100 or 200,000 rand. I mean, to return. You look at all these big winnings posted by like Betway and Hollywood Bets, and these are all from small stakes. Now, and I imagine if you had to go and sit and manually approve all of those. But anyway, enough about that. We've got some F1 in Bahrain coming up towards the end of the month, and you wanted to have a chat about the team news and how things are shaping up on that side.
Yeah, it's Formula One starts again this Sunday, and as you mentioned, Bahrain is the first GP. Last season was disrupted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, I just wanted to go through some of the moves and just my quick thoughts overall in the season. But yeah, there's some really interesting shifts between the teams. We have Alex Albon, who was dropped by Red Bull, who's now being replaced by Sergio Perez, and he came from Racing Point. And that should be very interesting. You got Ricciardo, who left Renault, and he's moving to McLaren. He's replacing Carlos Sainz. And then Sainz, obviously, I just mentioned, who left McLaren, will actually replace Vettel at Ferrari. So that's a big move. And Vettel's move to Aston Martin, which is actually formerly known as Racing Point. So Aston Martin will be the new team name for Racing Point. And then something which I'm not sure, if he's going to be making waves at all, but something I think people will find quite interesting. Michael Schumacher's son, Mick Schumacher, will actually race for Haas this season, and that's a completely new team. He'll be alongside Nikita Mazepin, who's a Russian racer. So some interesting moves leading up to the next season. And for this GP, I was actually quite interested. Lewis Hamilton is not the favorite.
I literally just saw that, and if you're following the clicking going on in the background, viewers, and you'll see I literally just clicked on the qualifiers, and I saw he's slight favorite over Max Verstappen is slight favorite over Hamilton.
Yes,
why is that? You're really gonna have to dig deep and tell me what's going on there.
It's actually quite simple. I mean, they did the testing last weekend, right? And obviously the testing is when, for the first time, they take out, this is not for points or anything like that, but they test the cars and just race them against one another and just see, what all the developments that they've, between the seasons, basically. They obviously have they can rebuild their car, they can do whatever they want. The engineers tweak things and make changes. And the Red Bull car looked amazing. I mean, Red Bull and Mercedes have won the title between those two teams for the last decade. So they obviously are the two best, but Red Bull came out of that testing session looking quite a bit stronger than Mercedes. And, Verstappen is a brilliant driver. I mean, there's just no doubt about it that he is second to Lewis Hamilton in terms of ability. And then there's a kind of big gap. He really is a brilliant driver. So, with him in potentially the fastest car, Max Verstappen in potentially the fastest car, the bookmakers are making him favorite. I mean, some people will probably jump on this opportunity to get Hamilton. I mean, you haven't been able to bet on Hamilton for anything over even money for a long, long time. But it's quite something to see. I think, though, personally, just looking at Bahrain, I always try and look for a little bit of value. I think Daniel Ricciardo is one to look out for. He's in the McLaren now. And he'll be racing a brand new Mercedes engine in that car. So, they've changed engines. So I actually quite like him to get a podium finish. So he would obviously need to finish then first, second, or third. And you can get Ricciardo at odds of 3.75 to finish in the podium spots. I think, Bottas and Perez will obviously be expected to finish ahead of him if you look at the betting. But, he's probably in the third best car in the McLaren, and I think he's a brilliant driver. So I think you're getting a little bit of value there, 3.75. But yeah, it really should be a more interesting season. Ferrari doesn't look like they're going to do much, but I think Red Bull are going to be even more competitive with Mercedes, and if not win it all, personally.
Well, I must confess I haven't been following Formula One for several years now. I've been catching up on who wins what, but I don't follow it religiously. I find it's been a bit too dull with dominated by one or two individuals. Or
yes.
Lewis Hamilton, should I say? And I just find it interesting to see that, as you mentioned earlier on, that Mick Schumacher is going to be racing, and it's still a mystery what's going on with his father. Somewhat off topic here, but I mean the guy is assumably he's an invalid or something like that.
He has come out of his. He's come out of the coma he was in, but he's certainly never going to race again. So, it'll be good to see his son racing. But I think it really is. It's going to be a more interesting season, and I think especially with these team changes, I think there are a lot of drivers who were being held back by their vehicles, by their cars. Like the likes of Ricciardo and Perez, and I just think them racing in better teams with better engineers and better vehicles. I think that it should be a little bit tighter at the top, or hopefully at least.
All right, great. Thanks for all the insight, Simon. It's always good to hear about sports that I know very little about. And guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the podcast. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to have a podcast for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be away. There might be some technical difficulties trying to do it. We tried it last time. It didn't really work out so well. But we'll do our best. Otherwise, this might be the end of this season. And we'll be back probably in, I think, May, end of April, around there with new podcasts, unless we can figure something out. The problem is getting the recording software working on the PC that I'm traveling with, and getting all of that stuff set up is quite a pain, and I didn't manage to get it right last time, and I'm not sure if I can get it this time, but we will try. And so if you guys don't hear from us in a while, it's because of that. You're probably celebrating. You don't have to hear my voice anymore. But but Simon, thanks for joining me as always. And let's hope it's a good one. Let's make some predictions before we end this one. Let's have one going out. Do you think France are gonna cover that 4-try bonus point win?
I think they can. As I said, I think that 16. I think the 16-point handicap to me is more of a challenge than the 4 tries. I think they could easily score 4. And then another prediction is again a bit of a long shot, but I fancy Ricciardo to get on the podium in Bahrain at 3.75.
Awesome, great, and I'm gonna go with you on France taking the bonus try win, and I think I might actually take a France win and overs, because that ties in better than the handicap, I think it ties in. You'll probably get a market for that than France and over 3.5 tries. So I would be looking at over. I mean, what's it? Let's call it around 30. I want to say about 35, 36 points they're going to need to score. Look, 28 points obviously would be fine, but they still need to not concede a certain amount of points and all of that anyway. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to visit our site, Facebook and Twitter pages. Let's go make some money.